How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. 8 o'clock is different the closer
I
you
know.
get
I know
done.
you've been working hard all day too. I know. Thank you for being here with us this evening.
No problem.
Well, we have a very special guest, folks, and just glad to have this young lady here. Her name is Tiffany Covington, but AKA Tiffany C. Tiffany is an artist and also a mental health professional. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn it over to you, Tiffany, a little bit so you can just introduce yourself to us with your
Okay.
artistry. Tell us about your artistry and then we'll move further.
Okay. No problem. My name is Tiffany. I a little bit of what I do. I recently started getting more into my writing. I write, I dance. My mom would say I sing, but we gonna leave that between me and the Lord. I love all things art, and my biggest passion in life right now is using the art that I've used to help me throughout with all of my struggles and all the things that I have had challenges with. My passion now is to use art to bring healing to myself, but also to other people, especially women and young girls.
Wow, and that's pretty awesome. Now you have a real nice video I don't know how it seems kind of recent with some of your music. But we're gonna do some. You're gonna do some reality live today. But is it okay if I read the bio, somewhat what's in your bio, so people can know like where we're going with all this?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Well, I just want to tell you, she's once again Tiffany C is an artist and a mental health professional she said she was drawn to the field by her own battles and depression. And she mentioned low self-esteem, anxiety, grief, chronic health issues with all these challenges. Now we're going to let her get into the rest of this, but I think it's just very important that we have somebody like this young lady here that she's kind of like on both sides. And so Tiffany, you are a poet, you are a performer. Nice video you put together, and I really like it because it's talking about how beautiful you are, right? And
Yes.
you're telling everybody else you're beautiful too. And so I think that's pretty awesome. Um, so we're gonna have some fun a little bit later, so she can go do her poetry video off of her poetry. I don't know what to call it. I wish I had sent it to the engineer because she probably can play it. And maybe while we're talking, I can still send her the link, and she may be able to add this to the video at the end on because on Facebook they see, you know, much more editing and all the other social medias. On YouTube, we're here, we're just raw, folks. It's us. Anyway,
Yep.
so the reason why I thought it was really interesting to have you, not only for your artistry, but because you said that you've had challenges yourself,
Yes.
and I think it's just pretty awesome that you know, for the things that you've been through, that you are also work in that profession. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the profession, and just tell a little bit about you and your challenges and how you got this far. I'm saying, you look at you're like a ball of sunshine, beautiful, smart, young. You have a lot going for yourself. Because people don't know what people go through many times to get where they are. And then
Right.
sometimes people may look like a ball of sunshine and beautiful and smart and young or older or whatever and look fine, but you never know what's going on the inside. So I want
Right.
to first thank you for being that person that's very open. That's you're allowing people to hear the inside of what's going on, and there's a lot of people I'm sure that can be either comforted by that or they say, okay, that's somebody that I can look at that makes me feel, like maybe I can be stronger or I can relate to what Tiffany's saying. So can you just, tell us a little bit about you and how some of the things that you've gone through and how you even got into the profession? I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, your introduction just now, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. You just said it on for what the preacher say in church. They said it all. I ain't got nothing else to say. Um. So, kind of, I want to tap on something you said about people watching this can look at me and say, "Oh, well, if she's this big ball of sunshine and she can, talk about her struggles, and maybe I can be open." And that is my goal, because that is a big part of why I have chosen to be as open now with my writing and with my love of art and with all the things that helped me heal. Because when I was growing up, I didn't really feel like I had someone like me to look up to, someone who um, was like gravitating to everyone, and the person who everyone loved to be around and loved to come share all their secrets with and talk to and confide in. But then they would also be this person who was strong and confident and all of that. I never had that person. Always felt, in my bio I said I struggled with low self-esteem. I always struggled with loving who I was and being okay with the person that I was when I looked in the mirror, when I talked about myself. It took until I was probably in my 20s, in my early 20s, maybe like 20, exactly 21, and I still struggle. But it took me a long time to even be able to say thank you to a compliment, because I would think people was just saying it to be nice, especially in the church or around my family. I would think people were just saying things to, be nice and generous. And when people would call me beautiful, I would just kind of laugh and, shake it off. And, mom actually pointed out to me one time when we were walking in the mall, and I don't know if she remembers this, but she's listening. So I don't know if she remembers, but we were walking in the mall one day when I was younger, and she noticed that every time a group of guys would pass by, a group of boys, I would walk the other way. And one day she was just like, I know every time we walk and when boys start to walk past, you always walk the other way. Why is that? And part of it was because I was uncomfortable with me. So I would always kind of shy away from people. Um, I could go in a crowd and make anybody laugh and joke, but when it came to me being alone around other people, I was very guarded and very, hidden within myself. So I say all that to say that is kind of what drew me to the mental health field in a way. When I was in college, I started volunteering at a crisis center. This crisis center helped people over the phone deal with different issues, suicide, depression, whatever you name it, whatever they will call for. And I also would go to the hospitals to help women when they were sexually assaulted. And so I started volunteering doing that. And then after college, I ended up doing that as a career. I was a sexual assault advocate and domestic violence advocate. Um, I work with males in a juvenile detention center. Um, I went on to work in a crisis center, so went from volunteering to actually working, doing crisis intervention over the phone and through chat and text messaging, and just doing different things within the mental health field because I wanted to figure out how to understand myself and the people around me who struggle with issues. And then that led to me wanting to, once I understood myself, share that with other people to help them understand themselves.
Wow, man, I tell you, that's it. Really, it's a blessing, even though some of the things that you've gone through, like you said, you suffered with depression, low self esteem. You also mentioned anxiety and grief and
Yes, yeah.
chronic health issues. And I know being a young, which you are a young person, being a young person, or just being anybody, if you have health issues, sometimes that alone could be frustrating. It can make you feel sad, then if you're not feeling great. So tell us about that area of the health issues. There's a lot of things that you talked about that you've even done, that you've even, like you said, you did work at the call center, and people that have been abused or feel suicidal.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit, as a young woman, what type of chronic health issues did you suffer with?
So I was diagnosed with asthma when I was one. So I spent my whole life having issues with battling asthma, asthmatic attacks, getting sick all the time, having issues with my stomach, um, having really bad migraines. when I was in college, I started having these really bad episodes where um, I would have spasms on the right side of my face. And it's not funny, but if you get to know me, I laugh at everything. My family laughs at everything. So if I make a joke out of it, don't don't feel bad. You can laugh. But I was at Outback with my family, and I had been having these tremors in my hand. My hand would do this, occasionally when I was at school. And so when I was out at Outback with my family one day, I noticed that my hand started tremoring again. So I lifted it up to show them. And as I started to show them, it went from my hand all the way up to my whole arm, and then it went to my face.
Wow.
So it essentially looked like I was either having a stroke or a seizure. And so they bust out laughing because they're thinking I'm like pop locking and dropping, trying to, make a joke. But I didn't know what was going on with my body. So it turned from, them laughing to being like, oh, something is really wrong. And so I ended up, they had to call an ambulance. I went to the hospital. I was out of school for a week trying to figure out what was going on. I had all types of tests, MRIs to see if I had what they thought were focal seizures, seizures just on one side of the body. And then that happened on and off for a couple months. And then I was hospitalized again because it appeared like a stroke. So instead of it just spasming, it would spasm and it would go numb. And I would go numb on the whole right side of my
Oh,
body.
wow.
And it would like transfer over to the left side. So it was just a lot. And my MRIs and everything will always come out normal. And so one day my neurologist was like, how is your anxiety? You know, um, and how is your anxiety? How are your migraines? So he gave me something to kind of lower the anxiety that I might have been having. And also, he gave me something for my migraines. So my migraines would get so bad that they, pretty much connected it to that it was just an aura, like a weird aura that people get when they have migraines. Some people can't see, some people see colors and different things like that. So they attributed that to being an aura for my migraines. Um, so that's kind of that piece. And then the stomach issues, all of that. It's just been random things going on throughout my life. And ultimately, recently, what it has connected to with my twitches and everything is the fact that I do have really bad anxiety. And that typically triggers my migraines. There are a lot of different things that trigger migraines and that make it worse, but that is a big thing for me, my anxiety. Um, and then when I get a migraine, my migraine triggering my anxiety. So it's just a lot going on.
Wow. So, um, thank you for being so very transparent to everybody. Um, so in the outcome of this, what is it attributed to? What does it come from? Was you think that it came from anxiety or things that's happened to you in your life or stress or a combination of everything?
That's the thing. No one can ever say for sure what it is, right? Doctors will always say it could be this, it could be a migraine, it could be anxiety. But ultimately, what I felt is that I've had to watch when it happens. And I had to start kind of keeping a little personal diary to myself of what I notice is going on around when it happens. I haven't had an episode that bad in years. I started going to the chiropractor that helped a lot with my migraines, and then that
Mhm.
helped a lot with the spasms and the numbness. I take magnesium now because a lot of that can be from a magnesium deficiency as well. And I noticed that when my anxiety is the highest, that is when everything kind of goes out of control. So I just kind of monitor the symptoms and I try to heal myself from the inside mentally and physically, watch what I eat and all of those things to make sure that I'm overall just well, because no one is ever really going to have an answer, but I think the biggest answer is that when you're not well overall.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so it doesn't have to just be one cause. It can be everything working together. So if I'm dehydrated, I get a migraine. But if I'm anxious, I also get a migraine. So overall, I have to watch everything that I do. I have to watch the people that I have around me. I have to watch the energy that I keep around me. I have to treat my body as if I love my body. I have to drink water. I have to watch what I eat. I know what foods trigger my migraines. So I don't eat a lot of salt anymore. I don't need drink a lot of pop or anything. I have to love myself overall and work on healing myself so that I'm not stuck trying to figure out what's wrong.
Well, I want to just maybe add to some things you're saying. Um, like you said, if you go to a doctor, they say, well, we don't know what's really going on, but I'm going to say, I'm just going to be a little personal now and transparent too. Now that you're talking about that, I remember when I was really young and I was married, and that relationship for me was stressful. It's an older man. And so I'm just going to say this. I was in an arranged marriage because of my why. I don't understand to this day, but it was an arranged marriage. Maybe they just thought it was best for me, whatever the case it was. But it wasn't love, and I was just very young. I was mature in the mind, but I still was really young. And so the man was very verbally abusive, and he didn't wish me well. So I'm like, well, why did you accept this thing to marry me for what? You know what I mean? And so I guess I didn't bend or break the way he thought I was going to do. He was a trip, that's all I can say. But being in that marriage, I was in it for 7 years. And I kind of grew up, and then I was praying, so God, can I get out of this? How can I get out of this? I grew to find out a lot of things about him, but just being in that trap in the marriage with an verbally abusive person that doesn't wish you well. In other words, his whole idea was to tear my self-esteem down so I wouldn't. And then, I don't know what the issue is, why he was so jealous. He was very jealous. But the whole overall thing was I experienced some things that you experienced. Asthma. I had that when I was young too. But I didn't really, when I was with him, I was always, the longer I stayed with him, I was always had to be rushed to emergency. And I come back home, I drink a lot of water. I really wasn't sure what his asthma was. I said, asthma feels like a cold. I don't know if I was catching a cold or not, but I come to find out that asthma was triggered by stress. Mm-hmm. Asthma, I was there to the point where I did feel, I don't never forget, my left arm started doing exactly what you said, shaking. And it was a pain. I said, am I having a heart attack or a stroke? And my patch of hair came out. I was like steady fixing my young self. I found something to make it grow back or whatever. But what made me think about it, what the problem was with me, why I was having these issues, was when I kept going back to the same doctor. One day I went to the doctor having that asthma attack. What is she allergic to? What's the problem? Pillows, feathers? They do the whole night. And the doctor asked me, he finally said, well, how do you feel when you start having the asthma, like the asthma attack? He said, are you happy? Are you excited? Are you sad? Are you mad? So that really turned on my thought pattern. I was still really young. Honestly, I was really young. I wasn't out of the teens yet. Okay. But I started thinking, I said, why did he ask me that? Then, a little older I got, I said, okay. So sounds like he's looking at, was it some emotional things that was going on that was messing with your mind, or are you stressed out because somebody feel like somebody's choking you? You're not being choked physically, but everything else around you is, suppressing you. And so I tell you what, when I got away, when I decided to leave, I asked God to deliver me from this situation. And when I got away, I still had, I call it delayed reaction to my feelings, because sometimes when you're in something, when I was in it, wasn't thinking about it. I was just trying to get through it. Then when I got out of it, I was able to go to school, do some things, get my life like I wanted to in the first place.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. It took me a while because I still felt the trauma.
Absolutely.
I was traumatized by the whole situation. So it's like I was standing out after I left, I was on the outside looking in at myself, right? Looking in at myself at the situation. And it's almost like I was going through it again. I wasn't there, but I was being traumatized another way because it's the after effect of what I've been through. Okay.
Yeah.
And it took a lot for me to go. I was going to school. I couldn't sleep with certain things. The way it's almost like he was trained me to do some things that I had to break. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. So, but the better I got, I didn't suffer like that anymore. I didn't have the pains in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I don't die here. I don't die or something. I lay on the bed and I go, and my chest will hurt really bad, and my arm was tremor like yours. But I never said anything. I was trying to figure out, Lord, don't. And then being in a situation like that, I didn't want to be in. I was trying to find my way out because I wasn't in agreement with none of this. This was some old school stuff back in ancient history. I call it back in the day, back in the day, like centuries back. Like what century are we in? And so I'm like, but I noticed when I was able to come out of that, a lot of that stops.
Yeah.
So my knowledge is, and I'm just not saying this about you, but I'm just saying my experience. Stay away from stress. I was not in a great situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone's trying to make you have low self-esteem about yourself to make you control you. That's kind of setup it was,
Yeah.
So,
but three things that you said before I forget. There are three things that stuck out to me. One, you said that your asthma would get worse, and the doctor was asking about your emotions. A lot of times, I think because I have asthma still, I still struggle with it, and when I was younger, it was way worse. But a lot of things that I think people with asthma, especially, get run into issues with is that asthma symptoms and symptoms of anxiety attacks can mirror each other. Anxiety attacks and panic attacks. They can mirror each other. So if you're a person with asthma, it's really hard for you to detect when you're having struggles with having anxiety attacks or panic attacks because you're used to your breathing being labored. And so you probably think that's your asthma flaring up, but it could potentially be all of the stress that's weighing on you. You're starting to have anxiety attacks. Anxiety attacks, can be prolonged. Panic attacks are more so those sudden attacks where you can't breathe. Anxiety attacks, they're more so prolonged and, they don't happen as sudden. But that's one thing that stood out to me that I want people to kind of take away, especially if you're an asthmatic, pay attention to the differences because I grew up all the time thinking everything was related to my asthma, but now that I identify my anxiety issues, I know when I'm having an anxiety attack versus when I'm having an actual flare up of my asthma because it starts becoming very hard and it happens over the day. That's how I know it's not my asthma. If I'm stressed and I'm like, whew, and I'm fidgety and, I feel like I can't stay still and I'm getting hot and like I'm getting dizzy and stuff, I know like my anxiety is flared up.
You going through those changes, yeah.
I'm going, yeah. And then another thing you said that you were talking about the, the tingling sensations and the numbness. Our body traps trauma. Our body there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, but our body keeps trauma trapped inside if you don't deal with it, if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't address it, if you just are quiet. Because the third thing that you said was that you didn't tell anyone that you were having those tingling sensations. Well, a lot of what you were going through at home, it was probably getting trapped in your body because you weren't saying anything about it, you weren't dealing with it, you were just kind of going along with it. And then, with you not telling anyone that you were feeling that, it probably was getting worse because where the devil gets you, and I'm just gonna go there real quick.
Go
where
ahead.
The devil gets you is that he tries to keep you alone and keep you silent and not telling people what
now
you're
suffering all by yourself, yeah.
Because that will just get you suffering all by yourself. the symptoms will get worse. The thoughts going on in your brain will get worse. Everything just keeps on increasing and increasing and increasing until you're like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. So that just stuck out to me when you were talking, because I'm like, yeah, a lot of that was getting trapped, because that's what happened to me. All of it, my dad died when I was 17, and then after that, it was just death after death after death, and all of that was stuck in me because I never stopped to truly grieve any of them. I kept going. I was like, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna make him proud. I'm gonna keep doing everything that I can do to make him proud, then to make her proud, then to make him proud. Then who all died? Like, I
And
don't
not
remember no
and you
more.
forgot about yourself, basically.
Yes. So yes, but yeah. So a lot of that's why I say I can't pinpoint what exactly it is that is wrong, because it's too much.
Too
It's
many, too much. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If your overall well-being is not right and it's
But
not in
somehow,
alignment.
sounds like you got to, excuse me, get to know yourself. Because that's
Yes.
what happened to me. And the thing was, the part is not knowing. You think it might be just because, like I said, I thought maybe when I was growing up, I had asthma. I thought, they would give me all this medication and stuff, and so I thought, well, this contributed to a cold? Because if you catch a cold, it'll mess with your asthma too. Like
Mm-hmm.
you catch a cold, because now
Yeah.
that you have this issue with your lung challenge, right, breathing challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, but the whole point of it for me is I just had to figure out. I had to figure it out because I didn't know. I said, well, am I getting? It's not cold outside. Why am I breathing like I have a cold? So
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure it out. I said, but right then I was 16, 17 years old too as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn myself and figure out. And then when the doctor asked me all those questions, well, to me, I said, that had nothing to do with the cold. Why is he going with these emotional feelings that I'm having?
Right.
And you said something perfectly correct concerning that, because this man, I don't like to argue. Number one, I'm not an arguer. I'm gonna, if I did something and I screwed it up, I'm gonna tell you I'm sorry, and I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be done.
Right.
But he was somebody that liked to argue. Somebody people like to beat your brain in.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say anything. I'd stop. Okay, once I told you, and I didn't give him the satisfaction. I guess I don't know. But my thing is, I felt more adult than he was, being older, almost twice
Mm-hmm.
as old as me, and so I had to take that. That's called verbal abuse.
Yeah.
And again, not saying anything because I wasn't going to snap. I just wasn't going to snap. I didn't do none of that. But I just listened to him while he was in my ear, literally in my ear and in my face. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and like you said, like the devil's trying to get a rise out of you. I'm not going there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time for this. So the Lord delivered me from the situation, which I was very happy about. But I could add all those things up. That situation wasn't it did a lot of things that could, if I had stayed there, I might not be alive today, put it like that. Because that's how I felt. I felt like I was gonna leave here. And I was at the point where I felt like this is what he was trying to do. Are you
Right.
trying to kill me? Because we keep going through the same thing. And I remember one of the really worst times I had the asthma attack, and I told him it was an emergency. I had to go to emergency. And when I went to look in the mirror, I had blue circles on. That means you're getting ready to die. I looked around. Then he said, hurry up, come on. Like, well, you can't breathe. And people need to know this. If a person's having an asthma attack, don't
Uh-huh.
expect them to get up, move, or you have to help them.
Yeah.
Because just to move when you have an attack takes all your breath away.
Oh,
You feel like somebody put
absolutely.
a sack over your head, a
Mm-hmm.
plastic bag over your head, and taking your breath away.
Mm-hmm.
So the instant with me feeling that way, and probably because of him, and then him being uh not caring and being mean, that just
Mm-hmm.
added more fire with
Yeah.
more coal to the fire. But
Yep.
it was a learning experience for me to learn about myself. And so, this is some things I've never really talked about to a whole lot of people. But
Mm-hmm.
it's good to talk about that because, like, once again, people never know what people go through, where they've been, and where they are now.
Right.
I'm the type of person, once I find out this is gonna hurt, I'm leaving.
That's good, because a lot
I
of
mean,
people stay too
I'm not a
long.
glutton for punishment. But my thing was
Yeah.
being so young, I had to pray my way out. God's really kept me. God is the one. He's the one for
Mm-hmm.
me to get as close to God as I can get.
Yes.
That
And
was the only one.
I also wanna piggyback off that too, because and that might lead into what we kind of talked about when we spoke on the phone. When people say like, God took control, God let me out. That is absolutely beautiful. That is
Mhm.
amazing. And we praise God for that. But I don't want what I part of what my mission is that I'm a believer. I believe in God as well, and I love God, and I give Him all the praise for all that He's done in my life. But without God putting in place those resources that can help you, without those resources that He's put here, no one can do it by themselves. Um, God, it is great. God led you out of that situation, and
Yeah, it was special. I'll tell you.
It is, yes, it is very great that He led you out of that situation. Part of what my mission is and what my passion right now is for people who are going through situations like that, especially Christian women.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to lean on God and trust in God and pray, and to pray without ceasing. But do not think that that doesn't mean you can't also go and get help elsewhere. It doesn't mean that you can't go and get an advocate like I was. It doesn't mean that you can't go to therapy and have your therapist talk you through some of the things that you're experiencing. It doesn't mean
Right.
any of that. You
Right.
have to use God and the resources that He's put here because God might lead you to some of those resources. So don't get into a place where you feel like you just have to let God lead you out by just praying and staying and waiting for something to happen. Take control and go get some of those resources that are going to help you get out of that situation.
And that's the awesome thing, and that's what we were talking about is being able to um feeling trapped. Some people
Mm-hmm.
feel trapped and they don't see the way out. And just that's why we advertise just about every time we do a particular program or show, we have an 800 number. And this is where I want to go to with this too. This man was a preacher. So when the divorce came, after I told everything that he did, they're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is he? I said, he's a preacher. She wrote that note so fast and I threw the divorce paper at me. Like, what? So a lot of people don't know that people, Christian people, I mean, it's just to happen to women, it happens to men too. But
Yes.
a lot of women do, live in conditions like that. You don't know what's going on at home when you see First Lady come to the church, or pastor's wife come to church, or a Christian woman come to the church. You see her all the time, and we know that God is keeping us. Um, but it's also the thing is if you're in some people feel they're trapped and they don't have anywhere to go. That's
Yes.
how I felt. I can't tell anybody this. It's like, and I think one lady from the church, I guess she saw the whole situation. This young girl's with this older guy, and what? So she just called me up. I
Mm-hmm.
call her Mama today, right now. She's still living, and I talked to her on the phone, and I one day just let it all out.
Mm.
So you have that guilt feeling. I'm not supposed to tell them about all this is going on. I told her she was somebody to tell, and because I told her, she kind of mothered me. She didn't butt in. She didn't try to, like break up anything. She said, "Okay, listen, I'm gonna take you over here. Let's go." And so I was
Mm-hmm.
able to air my brains out, get out, and do some things, which that's another thing he didn't like. But she
Mm-hmm.
knew. So I had one person that I was able to tell. But prior to all of that, I didn't know what to do. And I said, well, a lot of times, probably a lot of people feel that way. They feel that it's not, you want to keep it a secret. You don't want people to know. It's wrong to tell somebody. And that is totally wrong. The thing is, if you can find somebody, I just say God sent that woman. He sent her too, because she could see it. And I was
Amen.
able to let loose and tell her everything that was going on,
That's
And
good.
just being able to tell somebody something, that relieves a lot of issues. While I'm searching on, now I wasn't trying to stay, I was searching on how to go.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, get out here some kind
Yes.
of way. But thing is, I did have some wisdom for a young woman um, about being wise about leaving. You don't, I didn't talk about it. in my mind, I had my own plan.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't tell the abuser your plans,
Right.
because now
Absolutely.
he's gonna stop you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to. I was blessed to be able to get out of there. So some people feel they have to stay.
Yes.
So it was nice to have these toll-free numbers. Now I really advertise. Now where I want to go with this too is now to the church. When it
Okay.
goes to church, we talked about this. Excuse me. To me, that's part of my I don't call it a mission, but just to do these things so to broaden people's minds, you
Yes.
know, uh, because so many times when you go to the church, the pastor, the mother, the deacon, the prayer warrior, if you go in with an issue, even if they know about it, it's just like the buck stops right there. And
Yes.
my thing is, it would be great if we know God is a healer. God can do it. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody prays for you for a minute, you will feel better. That happened to me. I prayed for me. Oh, I feel better. But
Yeah.
she went to say, what do I do when I hang up? You see? So I
Mm-hmm.
had to meet her after that. And in other words, the church needs to be prepared to go beyond the prayer.
Yes.
They need to be prepared
Absolutely.
for giving direction. Give them a prayer, show them that you support them. But I think they need a committee.
Yeah.
They talk about,
I think the church needs to be more trained in mental health and in
yes,
crisis
yeah,
intervention. I think
mhm,
that for too long, the church the church as a whole, I'm not going to say, because there are churches that have it and they know what to do and they act. But I think the church as a whole for too long has just been focusing strictly on teaching the Bible and praying and instructing people to pray and fast. But like I told you, we talked on the phone before. In this day and age, well, let me back up. When I was growing up, I served God and I focused my Christianity on the fear aspect of it. I served God out of fear. I I respected, and my reverence was, I'm going to do what you say do because I don't want to go to hell.
mm-hmm.
And the older I've gotten and the more things that I have experienced in life, the less that fear has been present. Because the more that you go through in life, the less fear you have of the afterlife. Because if I'm having all this trouble here on earth and it feels like hell, how bad can hell actually be? So I think the church has to, one, shift that message to speak love and why you should want to serve God and why you should want to reverence God and how God meets you where you are. But they
Mm-hmm.
also need to be trained in some of these tools that God has placed here on earth, that
Exactly.
being the mental health training, the crisis intervention training. I think anyone in ministry and anyone in the pulpit should have to undergo some type of volunteer service where they do like a crisis hotline shift or something like that. Because if a person comes to you and they say they want to kill themselves, and you say, well, that's a sin, where is that conversation going to go?
That's in right there.
Where's that conversation going to go? Or if they come to you and they say, I want to kill myself, and you say, okay, let's pray. The prayer can change everything. But if after that conversation they go home refreshed, feeling good, and then in the middle of the night they wake up in the middle of the night because that voice is back in their ear telling
Mm-hmm.
them all the things that voice was telling them before they went to the church, now what? They don't
Right.
have any tools. No one made a safety plan with them. No one sat down with them and mapped out, okay, so this is who I'm going to call again when I feel like I want to harm myself. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to go run. What do I love doing? What can take my focus off of this? No one is sitting there planning tomorrow for them. No one is saying, okay, this is what your plan is going to be when these thoughts come back and I'm not going to be here. Keep praying, keep fasting, keep doing all of that. But these are the additional tools that are going to help. Do you need medication? Do you need something to put your mind back in balance? No, if you just focus on the praying and fasting, and you just focus on, I'll pray for you, or we're gonna do a shut in. If you just do that, what earthly tools are you arming them with? Because although we are spiritual beings, we live in a human shell. We live in a human body. And if you don't give me any earthly tools to deal with things in addition to the spiritual tools, then you're setting me up for failure. So I think that that's my thought on it.
Well, I think that's definitely right. So that's my thought. We need to expand and have a more complete, balanced, well-rounded situation at the church to be able to handle different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody comes in there hungry, you may give them food, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody needs a ride, you give them a ride. So now what do we do with the person that is still struggling with this issue? And,
Mm-hmm.
and the other part of the training part will be good. I think it's really, I just believe if somebody will have a committee, or you already have a hospitality committee they used to have at the church, just have somebody there that you can send that person to, so they can keep up with them. And then if you can't do anything, at least you can direct them to where to go.
Yes.
And some people, they once you take them, some people you need people to encourage them, because some people won't go. So it's just people really need to be trained, and we also need to know that everybody that suffers with a mental health challenge, some people are born with imbalance in their hormones or something that's going on that may not have anything to do with stress, but with stress, it just actually really jack that up even for them more. Some people are. I talked to a gentleman now. He said, "Well, and what I'm telling people, as ministers and pastors and Christians, we need to look at the whole broad picture and not. It's almost like, and I don't really hate to say it, I'm trying to figure like being. I can't be so holier than thou because I know what God has done for me, And then if you don't do what I told you to do, if you don't get that prayer, it doesn't change, there's something wrong. All that kind of chatter need to stop that. And so if we learn more about people, the medical end of it, some people may really be suffering with demonic spirits. There's a lot of spirits out. Yes. But at the same time, it would be good to have somebody to cover the whole territory and not just stop right here. Okay, once you come in this building, when you leave, you better be right. After that, you're on your own. That type of thing,
Yeah.
So that's where the love comes in, understanding, compassion, right, will come in. And I think that the more we talk about it, people are going to better understand in the church area of we need more,
Yes.
we need more. Somebody comes in, you keep up with that person. It's like they say, well, the person's sick. Did you call Sister so see how she's doing? She's maybe had surgery. Same thing, so you got to take it a step further outside of those four walls. And then have some, like I said, if you don't have the knowledge, find somebody that does. But the main things like the 800 numbers, talk about those. I think those things need to be even said over the pulpit. When you do, if anybody has, we're gonna pray, anybody have any issues, there's 800 numbers you can call, even have pamphlets. It's all kind of things that can be done in the edifice of a church, that at least we can do all that we can do, and then hand them something so they can have something to hold on to. So I'm really having this. You know what? We want to be able to broadcast this again. I want to see. Let me read the rest of this, and then we're gonna ask you to perform for us. That would be great. Okay, so these challenges. This is part of our bio. These challenges are what inspired and motivated Tiffany to earn her bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in health. Wow, health promotion from Michigan State University. Miss Big Time Girl, go ahead. During her junior year of college, Tiffany began volunteering at a crisis center. That's what you said. It sparked a desire to help people work through and heal from their own crisis. That desire was intensified by Tiffany, as she said, her own time working as an advocate for survivors of domestic violence. You have to come back because we got a lot to talk about. We got to talk about domestic violence. We got to talk about sexual assault. we got to talk about all these things that people might be
Yeah.
suffering with. I've even had people tell me some things like I'm like, wow, this is real, and it's not something I
Yeah.
heard about. Just some, I've actually had people tell me different things that happened to them. And if
I
you hear
have.
my story, look,
Yeah.
you hear my story, and I'm just saying, God has blessed me all my life. Uh,
I have stories for days, so I definitely wouldn't mind coming back to talk about some of these other topics. Um, the there was a part of the bio that's what led me to do that. So the poem that I wrote that we're talking about and that I'm gonna do, Breathe, um, came from a place of everyone around me experiencing certain things and then me experiencing things as well. And that's where my art comes in, where I have no interest in being closed off anymore. I have no interest in, not speaking out and not being transparent and not being myself because I've seen what it can do health wise. I've seen what it can do, with my mental health of just of not letting things out. So that everything that, is in my bio of what I have done and what my, passion is moving forward it all comes down to me just wanting to give women and men as well. But I say primarily women and girls because I am a woman and my experience comes from my experience as a woman and as a girl, as a little girl growing up. So I want to be able to give a voice to that woman and that little girl who feels like they've experienced things that I've experienced and haven't been able to give a voice to it without feeling like they have to fit a certain mold to be okay with feeling those feelings. Because society will tell you, a lot of people come out about different challenges that they face, but they come from these women who every time they talk from a place of strength and, everything's fine now. Like,
right,
yeah, I
yeah,
went through that, but everything's fine. But no, I'm here to say everything is not fine with me. I still struggle with depression and anxiety. I have premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Before my menstrual every month, I get really depressed. So, and I struggle with anxiety daily. So I have no interest in trying to appear like I'm perfect and like I don't go through certain things because it's not going
right.
to help anyone.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that is me.
Wow. So you ready?
Sure,
Okay, we're ready.
sure. Okay.
Folks, we introduce you again. We are here with this live interview with Tiffany C, and she's gonna grace us with her talents and skills of her art. Tiffany.
Thank you, thank you. So before I perform this piece, I like to take a moment and just ask everyone, you yourself, Ms. London, and anyone watching, I just want everyone to think about the past couple years that we've all gone through this pandemic. Think about the week that you had last week, the weekend that you had, if it wasn't the greatest. Think about everything that makes you feel as if your chest is going to explode, as if you don't know what tomorrow may bring because you barely got through the day. And I want you to take all of that and just take a really deep breath and breathe it out on the count of three. So 1, 2, 3. Breathe. Dear beautiful, I heard you had to cry today. That life became a cluster of noise and expectations that for one moment you couldn't handle. I heard you had to sit down and let your body melt under the fire of all your deepest pain, your darkest thoughts, your heaviest burden. What a shame. It saddens my heart. Not that you put your armor of strength down for a minute, but that you viewed it as defeat. That you forgot you were human and not the ideological woman you see portrayed on IG. Don't you know your weakness is your strength? What is a heart that doesn't feel? What are eyes that don't shed tears of release? How can you live a full life and never grieve? Go cold, go numb, and watch the cycles of neglect start to run circles around your family tree. Breathe. When the activity in your brain gets so frenetic and no one seems to get it, take a beat. Walk a step And know that it's not time for you to give up yet. God created something miraculous in you, so miraculous you will be. Stand tall, shine bright, and remember that a heart that shines deserves sunlight. So I pray that one day, when the clouds separate and the rain no longer pours on your parade, you'll be saturated in the rays of sunshine that shine down to make your days beautiful. You are beautiful. Your journey is beautiful. Your healing is beautiful. Breathtaking, sensational, fascinating, phenomenal, and did I forget to say beautiful? Breathe. Love your journey, honey, and stop mistaking other people's preferences as an estimate of what your worth is. Feel what you need to feel and move on. And trust that ever since your birth, your worth was determined by the breath God placed inside you. Breathe. Even when it hurts, breathe. And when it feels like you can't breathe, relax, reset, take the tiniest breath, and say to yourself, just breathe. You got this. Signed, me. Thank you.
Ooh, wow.
Thank you.
All right now. Well, thank you so much. That's beautiful. And just breathe.
Thank you.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for that. That's just great.
Thank
well,
you.
We expect you to come back, and I know you probably want to get some rest, Tiffany.
Oh, I sure am. I'm asleep good tonight. I sure am. But thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's
I'd like for you to come back again and have some ideas for you. Not that your schedule was not already too full, but maybe you'll listen. Out. Yeah, it is. This is great, and I thank God that I know your mom and I know your dad, and I saw you too, but you were probably so young when I saw you. Now you've all grown up.
Probably.
I did. I saw the girls. I saw the family. And but it's nice to be able to see you today doing what you're doing. And of course, our love and our prayers are with you. And we are going to say farewell, because if we can't go over an hour, we won't be able to run this again through our system. We have a special system. So is there anything you'd like to say in the last one more minute before we go?
Just whoever you are, be who you are, love who you are. God didn't place you here for no reason. It's not a mistake. He placed you here to do something, no matter what it looks like on the outside. If you feel like what you want to do is too crazy, or who you want to be is not going to be acceptable to people, I want you to be you, because through you being you, God is going to work through you, and he's going to help people with you. So take that, be blessed. If no one else has told you today, I love you and appreciate you and value you immensely.
Wow. God bless you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to call you for about 2 minutes after this is over, because I'm not going to hold you too long. But thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and watching Tiffany C, the famous Tiffany C, the artist.
Not famous.
Yeah, you're famous. I'm saying you're famous, okay?
Thank you.
You're a blessing to many people. And so we want to keep pushing this out there so many people can be blessed. And we ask God to bless you too. Continue to bless you. Thank you. And we want to tell you that you're beautiful. Thank you for telling us that we're beautiful, and telling us that you love us, and we love you, Tiffany. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love you, everybody. God bless you. Have a blessed night.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.